Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 14 of Cardboard Time. I'm Arwen.
This is Justin.
And Justin, I have to start things off tonight by talking about my Indian food experience. There is a little local place.
Oh, one second. Then I can listen to the story while
you go.
Test my beer for the night.
Well, that's important. So there's a little local place that we both like called Sing Biryani up in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
There's a song about that place.
Is there? What, Cuyahoga Falls?
Yeah, and like Pretenders or somebody.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. Also, did you know that meme royalty came from Cuyahoga Falls?
Wow. So you're already starting off topic. Now we're like way off topic.
Now we're way off topic. No, Bad Luck Brian is actually from Cuyahoga Falls. I had no idea. So the old Advice Animals meme. Yeah. He works for his family's construction company as well. So I mean, we may have run into the guy and not even known, but it sounds like he's doing well for himself. So
we could start stalking him and then get him on the show, maybe.
Yeah. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
So to go back to Indian food, Allie picked up dinner and she said, well, what do you want? And it was halfway between pizza and Indian food. And I said, well, let's get Indian food. We haven't had that in a while. So we got it. And I get a text. We were doing a recording for next episode. We had our special guest that we were recording. And I get a text on my phone that said, so remember when I told you not to let me order anything spicy? And guess what I did? And I'm like, I bet you I know exactly what she ordered. And she ordered chicken 65.
You called
chicken 65. I called it.
You know her. You two are meant for each other.
I mean, I knew as soon as she sent that text message, that's exactly what I said. I'm like, I bet you she ordered the chicken 65.
Again. What's this chicken 65? This sounds awesome. I should try it. Not remembering last time.
Not remembering the last time that she tried it, and it was super spicy.
It sounds like a very memorable name, not like a lot of other things on the Indian menu that I'm like, what did I have last time that was super awesome?
Yeah, I mean, butter chicken, chicken 65, those are things that you kind of remember, and everything else is like, did I have that?
Yeah, I don't know. The description doesn't really tell me what it's like. That is the problem for both of us with Indian food. We like it, but I can't tell you what my favorite dishes are.
I just know that I like it, and I think I can tell you a couple of my not favorite dishes, but that's about it.
So I've got a little food adventure for you. Last night, I was hiking, and I found some sort of mushroom, like probably near 2 feet in diameter, coming out of a log.
2 feet?
Yeah, like no kidding. Yeah, 2 feet in diameter, like this huge brown thing. I'd take a picture of it because I take a picture of like every mushroom, especially the giant ones, right? This is a thing I do. And I texted my brother, and I'm like, is that edible? Because he seems to know these things somehow, even though he's, 1,500 miles away. And by the time I'm done with my hike, I check my message, and he's like, 100% edible. I'm like, okay, good enough for me, right? Well, I did a little internet search too, but apparently you can't mistake this one if you're an expert. It's, what do they call it? Pheasant's back or something. It's one of those woodier mushrooms, though. The ones that shelf ones that grow out of the side of trees.
Yeah.
And I get it home, and I guess some people hate them and some people love them. And if you get them young, they're tender and delicious, I guess. But you get them old, and they're tough. The flavor is still good, I guess. So I got it, and I cut it up, and it was like eating rubber leather. And I'm like, yeah, this one's probably old. So I'm taking the rest and turning it into broth or stock. It's apparently going to be really good. So I use it for all my ramen. So we could have noodle party again.
Oh, I do like a good noodle party. We do like
noodle party. Man, we are so far off. One more thing about the mushrooms, though. This is wild. The fresh, it tastes just like exactly like watermelon rind. Like not the red part, but when you get down to the white, you know what I'm talking about too. Sometimes you take a little extra bite and you're like, it's not great. Exactly what it tastes like.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild. Anyway, weird. But so I got like a giant pile of them stewing down there right now. I might have to bail just to make sure I don't overcook it. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, just in case somebody from the audience tuned in to hear about mushroom lore as well as board games, you are in such luck.
Yeah, because that's exactly what we advertise.
Board games and mushrooms.
Mushrooms, Indian food, and Cuyahoga Falls.
Meme legends. And beer, of course.
Beer, well, yeah, we got to get to that before we get to games. So I don't know. You want to do that part? The shtick?
I will do my beer first. I am drinking the Continuous Revelation Coffee IPA. It is from Red Hook Brewery out of Seattle, Washington. It's definitely a little bit hoppy. It advertises it's got some coffee flavor to it right in the name. I don't know. I had 3 cups today, so it could be partially that, but I'm not getting a huge amount of coffee out of it. I had rated it 3.5 stars.
That's pretty generous.
On my previous rating.
Oh, yeah. Previous rating.
Yeah, previous rating. And I think it's right about there.
Okay.
It's a pretty decent IPA. And speaking of IPAs, I have to ask how your IPA reduction journey is going as you're not drinking.
Granted, I can't do like a purely objective measurement on it. I think it is working. Like, I can taste other things, so I'm not ruined forever. On the other hand, I did find as I was trying to put more stuff in the fridge, I'm like, oh great, here's like 4 more cans of IPA. So now those are back in the rotation. So it's not a very good experiment anymore. But that said, I am having a Dortmunder Gold Lager from I'm covering up Great Lakes Brewing, not terribly far from here. This is an excellent go-to. I don't know why it hasn't been a regular for me more often. This is just delicious. It's a good, rich gold lager. It's got lots of flavor and complexity going on. So, and not so much that like you get, those beers that you have one and you're like, that's, enough. This could be like a regular, like Yingling or something, right? But a much higher tier. So anyway, big fan of this now. So Dortmunder Gold.
I've always been a big fan of Great Lakes offerings. Now on to our actual board game
boring
content
stuff. You can hold on.
Now that we're like 10 minutes into this, my Shelf of Shame is at 179.
You say at. That's not up or down.
It is still at 179.
Yep. I need to see that. I need to see that trending plot again.
So this is curious because I had a lot of activity on the past 2 episodes I had to talk about, and then you show up, and I don't have much to talk about, actually. I have one new edition with one kind of adjunct board game related edition, and then one game that I got to the table, and that's it. So a pretty short segment this time.
You've been off the wagon, I guess.
Yeah, I've been doing some other stuff, and I will talk about that in a minute.
Oh.
The new edition is a game that I think you're excited about. It is the Rival Networks that arrived from Kickstarter.
Is that the Networks?
It's a 2-player Networks game. So, yeah.
Yeah, Networks.
Yeah.
That's gives me warms the cockles of my heart. That's a good, silly, well-structured game. Oh yeah, we love the theme.
Yeah, I love the theming on it. I love the artwork. Gil Hova was the designer of it, and he produced such a wonderful game in the base game of the Networks. I'm really excited to get the 2-player version. In the peak that I got of it, I think it's going to be good. I think it's a little streamlined, so you don't have all the extra stuff kind of going on.
It's been so long, I'm not sure I could remember, but I know I had a good time.
Yeah, it's something that I'm very excited to get to the table and play, and that did just arrive.
I feel like getting those out back to back.
It might be worth getting a refresh on the original and then playing the 2-player version so that we're able to compare and contrast.
A little Networks marathon.
Yeah. The other thing that did arrive at our doorstep was our Wormwood table. that we assembled. We have been waiting on that for quite a while. The Kickstarter fulfillment was kind of a fiasco. I will give Wormwood credit because they were very transparent in kind of what was going on. They actually publish a weekly vlog, I believe, that kind of goes into what's going on at the factory, what kind of challenges they're facing. So I do give them a lot of credit for being very transparent.
There's a lot of COVID supply issues.
There was some of that. One of the things that happened that was kind of outstanding was that the felt was cut wrong.
Oh.
So it was actually cut in an angle. And I guess it was probably okay, but it wasn't up to their standards.
Well, they are high tier.
They are a high tier company. So yeah, we were excited to get this in and assembled. We had to do a lot of cleaning to begin with, take the old table down and put this one up. This one's sitting in the dining room, and it is a beautiful product. I have to say that so far I'm incredibly pleased with it. It looks wonderful. The only issue that we had assembling it was actually two of the holes were drilled a little bit too deep. We wound up fashioning spacers out of napkins to put in the bottom of it. Yeah, and it was something that would never show. I mean, you would never see it. So we were able to kind of get over that and get everything to align properly. Everything assembled fine. Allie reached out and just said, hey, we noticed this in our table. Just contacting you, letting you know this is how we fixed it, just in case other people run into the same issue. And they offered a full replacement.
Oh my gosh.
And we were like, no, this is fine.
Yeah.
We're good. We just want you to know that this happened. Yeah. So,
that is they were very good of them. Yeah.
They were very pleasant about it, and they were very good to deal with. So I would definitely recommend checking them out if you're in the market for a table. So the game that I got to the table was Honey Buzz. And if you remember from the last episode, that was one of the ones I purchased. I was very happy to get this to the table solo. My first impression of it is that it is a pretty awesome game. The action selection mechanism behind it is pretty cool. You're building out your hive, and every time that you make a complete hexagon, all of the actions around that hexagon that you create, you get to take. So that's kind of your action selection, and then you immediately take those actions. Sometimes you can chain those if you do things kind of in the correct sequence. You can chain those with other actions that you can get from fulfilling these orders that come up. Really satisfying.
I haven't
Really
seen it,
different.
but I'm imagining like Pigpen with superpowers.
It's pretty awesome. It is a little bit difficult to describe off the cuff, but I'm looking forward to getting some more of this out, especially with more people. It played wonderfully solo. I was very, very pleased with it. Definitely something that I'm looking forward to getting to the table.
Well, good. Then I have to play it so we can actually review it officially.
Yes, exactly. So now we can actually get to our review section.
Yeah, just look at the watch here.
Today, we are going to start with a game that I have talked about a little bit on the show, and that is Super Skill Pinball 4K.
We talked about this a little bit. Yes.
Super Skill Pinball 4K plays 1 to 4 players in 30 minutes. Designed by Jeff Engelstein. The art was done by Gong Studios and published by WizKids. In Super Skill, players are simulating the classic arcade favorite pinball in this roll and write game. After choosing one of 4 different tables, players will roll a shared pair of dice and choose one of 2 matching results, then move their pinball around the board, eventually making their way down to the bottom of the board. Once to the bottom, they'll use a flipper slot to move their ball back to the top and repeat the process over again until they drain out. After each player goes through 3 launches, the player with the most points wins. So Justin,
that description is not as exciting as this game is. But you had me at roll and write pinball.
Yes.
Which then I realized, like, the next day, I'm like, wait a minute, I know why I'm so excited about this. Because I used to draw, as we've said, I used to draw paper pinball games on notebook paper and then play them with my finger. And I went down to the basement because Mom had dumped a few boxes at my place some time ago, and I dug through and I found in my middle school stuff a notebook here. I have Arwen on video. I'm going to flash these up for her.
I cannot wait to see this.
I found four.
Oh my
I found 4
God.
pages of pinball games here. Now, I will say that these are. I think I wasn't inspired by pinball machines, having never played one at that time. I was inspired by NES, classic NES pinball. So these are all like 8-bit grid, but like this is level 2. You bust out these boxes and you get through the hole, and then you go to the next level, and then here, and you got all the bumpers and switches, I guess, and coins, of course, because it was on NES, right? And then here's the bonus stage. We're going to figure out how to share this with everyone, since we don't do a video podcast.
Hopefully Justin can scan those for you. But I could see how that was kind of inspired by the NES games being so kind of blocky in that. But is very... I am super impressed with the production of it, for...
Well, I had a lot of time back then.
I was going to say, it's very clean. It's very, very neat, which I could guarantee you anything that I would pull up from that era would just be a mess.
Our artistic talents are chasms apart, not to be ugly about it, but I spent a lot of time drawing as a kid. You don't even want to know, like, all the 8-bit. I drew Mario levels, like, across scrolls of paper. I had a thing for making things in grids. That's probably autism.
Again, I think it was very, very neat, very well organized. I give you a lot of credit for that.
Put a lot of thought into it. So that said, this game, Super Skill Pinball for Arcade, I'm like seeing the box, so I can't
make sure you get it right.
Get it right. Super Skill Pinball for Arcade. Well, you didn't get it right the first 2 times, so.
Well, that's why I'm warning you, to make sure that you get it right.
All right. So this game, it's like everything I didn't know paper pinball could be. This is fantastic. This is a good time. It's engaging. I was just bouncing around with my finger and had to keep myself honest, whatever that means when you're playing with your finger on paper. This was a good ride. We didn't play it face to face, but when you taught me the rules of it, we, played with the same dice rolls over Discord. But you know what? I don't know if it'd be any different face to face, because I'm really not interacting with the other player. I'm focused solely on my game, because I don't want to say there's a lot to keep track of, but there kind of is. And each table has its own special rules. The real trick is so this might be the downside of this game, is that I'm not saying it's bad because I'm not paying attention to you. And I'm not saying it's bad either, because it's a fantastic game. But I would say the weakness is you really got to pay attention to the rules. You got to keep yourself honest if you want to play fair, because if you forget something, you could maybe upset the game. I think the biggest risk for me was not forgetting to mark down points. There's certain things you hit the bumpers or something, and I cross it off, and then I'm like, oh, I got to cross off my point tracker too. There's a lot to keep track of, and therefore, even if we were playing face to face, I don't think I'd even really be paying attention to what you do. That said, it probably just shines as a solo game. I don't play solo games like you do, but man, this is clever. I mean, just with 2 dice, all the things they can do with it. And I haven't played all the tables yet, but I'm hooked. It's a super cool game. Clever. And I don't play solo, but I had a great solo experience.
See, I think it's interesting. You bring up a couple of really good points. First of all, I thought that playing it with you was going to bring something else to the table, and it really didn't. It was actually more encumbering to play over Discord with you on the same dice rolls than it was just to go and play it on my own. And one player inevitably is going to go out.
Oh, yeah. I think you drained way before me, and you're like, yeah, it's late. I'll log off, and I gave you my score 20 minutes later.
Yeah, so you were playing solo pretty much anyways for the last part of the game.
I just had someone to help teach me and walk me through it.
So I think there's that player pacing that kind of comes in that I agree. I think this is a better experience solo than I do multiplayer. I wouldn't necessarily get this out with a group of friends, but I would play the crap out of it solo. And I have. I've played a decent number of games. I know that you've played two of the tables. You are missing out on my favorite, and that is the Dragon Slayer table. The first table is just your very standard entry-level pinball, which is a great table to introduce new players to. Yep, learn the rules, learn how all the mechanisms work. The core of the game, here's your basic
because it feels like
table.
Pinball. You bounce the ball up to the top, certain directions, and it dink, dink, dink down through the thing. It feels like pinball. It's good. It's clever.
Yes, and I think how everything was employed with the mechanisms in that game just made that pinball feel just come alive. I don't know how Jeff Engelstein did it, but I give him a lot of credit because that was the closest I think we'll ever have to pinball on a piece of paper.
Oh, now come on! I got a whole book of it right here. What are you saying?
Yeah, but his is going to be way better. I can guarantee you that.
No kidding.
So then you've got the basic table. And then after that, you graduate to a table that has a pressure luck element to it, which also works extremely well. It's a little mini game that you enter just like on a pinball table. That then became my new favorite table. And then I played Dragon Slayer, which is like the third table. And that became my favorite table because you're getting XP and you're leveling up your abilities. So now you have spells that you can use.
All right, so I'm not giving you your copy back until I play that.
And that still remains my favorite table because I played the fourth table, which is kind of like disco themed, where you've got this little side game. But if you can imagine like the ball kind of descending into the table, and then you've got a little window that you're looking through and you're trying to hit it into these little drop gates, and that it worked. But it didn't work as well as Dragon Slayer did. I mean, that hit so well. I could play that Dragon Slayer over and over and over again. It is such an awesome experience. I got
to find time for that now. Oh boy. Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't describe enough about what's so great about it, but I hope you can feel my enthusiasm for it. It feels like a pinball game. It's slick. You got to keep track of the rules and, keep yourself honest if honesty's your thing, But it's a good challenge, Just go back and see if you can beat your old high score. That's what pinball machines were. They weren't multiplayer events,
Well, exactly. Unless you were one of those weird kids, and one kid, to save money, one kid would work the left flipper and the other kid would work the right flipper. That never worked. I love this game, and I think for a solo experience, Roll and Write, by far my favorite Roll and Write.
Because we played some good roll and writes.
But from your experience, would you disagree?
No, I don't think so. But if I'm playing in a group, even just you, I might still go for a different roll and write, just for a different experience. I'd probably go Cartographers. I had a lot of fun with. And that was good head to head. But this, like I said, I don't even know if I've ever played a solo game to have a good time. I played them to learn rules or play test, but I had a good time solo playing this.
I absolutely agree. It's a great game. It's going to be sticking around for a long time, but I don't know if I need to play it with anybody else. I mean, I'll share it with others. Like, I will go and here's the rules, here's a copy.
As you did with me.
Yeah, exactly. Take these markers and go have at it, go have fun. Let me know what you think. I think I'll do that, but I won't sit at a table and play it necessarily.
Might give it a try. Well, teach them. But yeah, I don't think it'd be as fun of an experience. I just want to get my own high score and leave it at that. I don't know if the publishers want to hear it, but what is there, four of each board in the box? Just get some friends and buy a copy and divvy it up, and you'll be in your.
Distribute the means of production, I guess. I don't know. I think that it is a wonderful game. I cannot wait for the expansion. That will definitely be a purchase that is on my radar.
The other game we played was Horizons. It plays with 2 to 5, 20 to 60 minutes, designed by Levi Moat. The artist is Mihailo Dmitrievsky, published by Daily Magic Games. In this game, players take control of starfaring species taking the first steps into a new galaxy. They score points by exploring new worlds, completing missions, gaining knowledge, and placing structures to gain majority control on each star system and help generate resources. Players will take 2 of 5 different actions during their turn. Those actions can also be bolstered by allies, which have a limited amount of uses. The game ends when a player places their last colony and a player with the most points wins.
So first of all, this was a Kickstarter for me way back when I was starting to back games pretty heavily. That was back in the days of Exploding Kittens and all that stuff that was, oh, this looks fun. I might as well back this. This is a
We had some poor taste in the early days. Not to say that Exploding Kittens specifically is poor taste. It's just we'd see something cool and be like, get that.
Yep, which grew my collection pretty rapidly, as well as just regular purchases. I had heard about this concept of 4X. And 4X, for those who don't know, is a game that involves exploring, expanding, exploiting, and exterminating.
Have I played any 4X games?
I don't think that you have. They're games like Twilight Imperium, Eclipse, Alien Artifacts,
Twilight Imperium, which you have how many copies of?
I have 3 editions.
Only 3. Okay. How many? How many of those have we played? Not even me.
0.
0.
So I like the idea of a 4X game without the combat. You know, I'm not a super combat intensive person. I get in moods where I like a lot of player interaction, but combat in 4X just feels so kind of heavy-handed almost, you know, where it gets really intense as opposed to being a lighter experience. So I kind of saw that and I said, yeah, sure, I'll back it. And it's a space game, so why not, you know, why wouldn't I like a space game? Unfortunately, since then, I've played Galaxy Command and Alien Artifacts, which I didn't like either of them. So I'm starting to wonder if the copies of Eclipse and Twilight Imperium I'm going to play once and be like, this isn't for me.
But it's 4X. That's super cool. It's got 4 X's.
This is a condensed 4X game. It has those elements of exploring and expanding.
3X then?
Yeah, it's kind of like a 3X.
There we go.
Because you're not exterminating anybody, and you're getting resources, you're building out, you're exploring the galaxy, that kind of thing. There's a light area control element to this game, which I thought was kind of interesting, which did change for 2 players as opposed to the fuller player counts. Mm-hmm. In the 2-player game, you're actually scoring each individual planet. There's the potential for 6 planets in each of 3 galaxies. And then in the fuller counts, you're actually vying for control over a galaxy.
And each system, I think.
In each system,
for what it's worth.
There's definitely an area control element to that.
But it wasn't like central. It wasn't like absolutely necessary.
No, it was just extra points. And usually it was also more tied into your mission cards that you got, which were like individual little scoring objectives that you got to complete. So they kind of stacked together. I did like the ally system. So as you're going through the game, you have these allies that kind of come up and they help you build a little bit of an engine. So when you're performing an action, those allies will then help kind of bolster, like Justin described, that action, give you a little bit extra. So maybe an extra resource.
It did bonus actions with a wide variety. It was a pretty cool feature. Yeah.
It definitely was. The interesting thing with the allies was that they had limited uses. So you can only use them a certain amount of times before they basically went to the bottom of their respective deck and you kind of had to cycle through them.
You had to acquire them again for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to acquire them if you wanted a new one and wait for a while that deck kind of got cycled through. So that I thought was an interesting component in that your engine was constantly evolving, much like Ecos I talked about last week with your player powers, which you haven't played yet.
Nope.
that constant engine evolving was a really neat feature. I really like that. The ability that you kind of had to complete those mission cards really did seem to favor a higher player count. So you had more actions going on. You had more stuff that was going on. A couple of them that I had, and I think a couple of them that you had, weren't even possible.
To be fair, I think we were playing the TTS version and we may not have had the cards sorted for the 2-player game. I can't tell. So I think, to be fair there, I think some of those cards were just not good for our count.
That is true. Asymmetric powers. So there's a standard side, your kind of race, and then there's a asymmetric side.
We didn't try that yet.
We did not. So the ability to have those asymmetric starting setups and powers, I think, is very interesting. I would like to play with that. And then finally, I think this might be an interesting game to use to kind of introduce people to the 4X genre. It's a straightforward teach. I think that we got it down in about 20 minutes or so.
Apparently, I've never played a 4X game either, and they do sound intimidating. They probably sound intimidating to a lot of even moderate gamers, so I could see this being a good introduction. It was pretty easy to pick up once you knew what was going on. For me, the biggest weakness or flaw, well, I don't call it a flaw, it was hard for me, was keeping track of, you have 2 actions. Well, it was hard for me to keep track of those whole 2 actions just because they all had a little bit of a sub-action to them, and your allies. Your allies were bonus actions for each action. I just struggled to keep track of all of it. I'd almost forget things or something. It made my turns take longer. I'd probably get used to it. It was my first game, right?
And I do think that would be easier face-to-face with those cards on an actual table.
That's true, because I could hold them all together and see it all, and I'd probably have it straight. And then it would be easier for, say, you to keep me honest and all that, right? The allies on that point, though, the allies are absolutely central to the game. It doesn't seem that way when you set up the game and you read the rules, but once you start playing, it's it's all allies. Because you take your 2 actions. If you don't have any allies, you're just taking 2 actions and you're done. You have allies, you're taking basically double those actions effectively. And they might be kind of nuanced and they do unusual things, but you're getting way more bang for your buck if you've got allies out there. So that was completely central to the game, which was cool because, like you said, it's kind of an engine builder. It's got a shelf life to it, or it's like an engine evolver. Your engine is constantly changing. It's like I'm putting all these things together, and I'm like, oh, I got a good engine going here because I'm thinking like an engine builder. And then my allies expire, and I was like, well, where'd my strategy go? It's totally different now, so you don't get stuck in a rut either. You just got to keep on your toes and keep moving. So that was really cool. You couldn't get comfortable, and so that was pretty sweet. I don't know how this would play out once we got experienced at it, but I kind of felt like I had a surprise win with my strategy. I didn't know what I was doing every turn. You were out there building up your systems and all that, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm lagging behind, and I don't even know what move to do here, so I'm just going to pick up more mission cards, and I just kept doing that every turn. And what do you know? I won because I had so many damn mission cards that I had completed. Is that how we could check the forums maybe and see, is that a viable winning strategy, or is that just dumb luck first play, right? I felt bad most of the game because I didn't feel like I was building or being productive. I was just grab more cards. I had a lot of allies because of it too, but
yeah, because you had the potential. I think you could either take 2 allies or you could take an ally and a mission card,
something like that. And so I would bounce back and forth between them, oh, do I need more missions cards? Do I need more allies? And boy, the allies were a neat feature. Like I said, they were central to it. The game's about planet and star system domination, right? But that's just a side thing to it, really. It was all about getting those allies and building that team. Even though that team is constantly cycling and evolving, you're looking at all those allies out there and be like, oh, you get a guy on there that's kind of a loser and he's kind of stuck on top for a while. Nobody wants that guy. But then, you get to the other ones until you're forced to get them or something. It was a good ride. And like I said, I think it's going to be way better face-to-face. I think it'll be easier to keep track of things, and we can help each other out to be like, yeah, you forgot about this or something. Just keep it rolling. That said, that when we brought this up before the recording here, it was 2 maybe 3 weeks ago we played this, and I was like, what was that game again? it was kind of forgetful, sadly. Once you described it, I'm like, oh yeah, and we had a good time, but it's kind of forgetful. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but again, if you're into 4X but you want something light, I think this is there, and I had a good time. And I can't think of anything that compares to that ally mechanic. Well, but you're the expert in what mechanics are out there.
So I actually wrote that down in the show notes. When we wrote this, I hadn't played Ecos yet. And now that I've played Ecos, the ally mechanic is a lot like the powers that you have in Ecos, where you have a limited amount of uses of them.
Well, there you go. So it exists.
So it does exist in other games, but it is a relatively unique feature that you don't see used a lot. And sure. I thought that was very, very unique and very interesting. Added a lot to this game. It wouldn't have been an interesting game without it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Now, I would say, not having played 4X games with combat can get a little heated and, get people upset. And I don't always like games where I feel like I'm just beating up on another player. This game doesn't have that, but it's got all the other parts. So, if that fits what your group's looking for, I could see this winning. It works. It's a good game.
And I think the question ultimately for me revolves around, is it good enough to keep around? Like you said, it's been 2 weeks since we played it, and you had to remind yourself, oh yeah, what was that again that we played? Not that it was a bad game. I don't know if it's, relatively different enough to kind of keep around. I do know that I am keeping it around for a while until I'm able to play it again with other players. Just from the standpoint of having that variety of player count and having more plays of it, getting to see the different strategies being put together. And then I think I'll have a better sense of the longevity of the game from there. That was Horizons. Well, stay tuned, because up next we have our viewer mailbag, or listener mailbag. It wouldn't be a viewer mailbag because they can't see us.
They can't see us.
Listener mailbag coming up. And welcome back. We have our listener mailbag. The first letter came from Matt Phillips, who is Philbert, 84 on Instagram. And he wrote, he is a relatively new listener, and he says, my wife and I typically play games as a duo. Any recommendations for two-player games? So I'm going to list off kind of, my favorite two-player games. The first things that kind of came to mind were more just dedicated two-player games, and I kind of branched out a little bit, so this should be an interesting list. And then, Justin, I'll let you get to yours.
Sure.
The very first thing that came to my head was Seven Wonders Duel. That is a game that has outsold the original game, I believe.
Wow. You talk about it a lot.
It's excellent. It is an excellent two-player game. Very tug of war. A lot of things to kind of keep track of. Very strategic. Games go quick. Super easy to pick up. If you played Seven Wonders before, you'll get a lot of the concepts that are being put down. But I really, really love Seven Wonders Duel. I think that it's a fantastic two-player game. Onitama is a game that has replaced chess for me.
Were you ever a heavy chess player before? Maybe before I knew you?
I played chess back in high school.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
I mean, I wasn't huge into it. It wasn't like, I was in the chess club and everything. It was just kind of a casual thing. But Onitama has just replaced chess for me completely. And I'm really interested to see where this is going to land once War Chess comes out to the table. That is something that I'm kind of waiting for you on to get out. But Onitama is a fantastic game. It is, again, one of those games that's super easy to pick up, very strategic, quick. I would call it perfect information.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean,
like
the only thing that you don't know is which option your opponent's going to pick. Your opponent has two options of moving, but those are all laid out on the table. So I would call it perfect information.
Yeah. No, it's a solid strategy game, but obviously much quicker than chess for the most part.
Yes.
Not that this was the question, but I think it'd be teachable to kids.
I think it could support a younger player. The third one that I've got is Jaipur, a game about trading. It goes extremely quick. Again, another very easy teach.
That was a good game. It's been a while since we played it, but that's solid.
Oh, it's definitely solid. It's something that you can get out, at the lunch table. We did a few rounds back when we were actually in person.
Back when people
working.
had lunch.
Back when people had lunch together.
Yeah.
That is another excellent one to check out, Jaipur. Race for the Galaxy. This gets into my more multiplayer recommendations. Race for the Galaxy, I think, plays best at 2.
Oh, really?
To me, it does. I've had the most fun playing it too. The only barrier to entry that you really have with Race for the Galaxy is the symbology to begin with. And once you get past that, it is a very quick game to pick up. It is super easy to conceptualize exactly what's going on the cards. You can just kind of picture your engine building in your head. I don't think that when I picked it up, I realized just how good of a game it is. One that we had kind of talked about was the exit and unlock games. Escape room games are an interesting breed because you want to have different perspectives. If you're playing solo, it's very easy to get stuck on a puzzle that you're not thinking of in the correct way. But if you have too many people, you kind of split everything up too much. You don't get to see all the information necessarily. You have too many people kind of siloing in their own little world.
Like in a real escape room. You don't know what happened on the other side of the room, but hey, we're on to the next thing. Yeah.
But 2 people can really provide that different opinion, but you're able to still manage everything and still get to see all the cards that are going on. I think that the exit and unlock games do play very, very well at 2. And then the last one is a relatively new favorite of ours, and that's Res Arcana. I think that plays brilliantly at 2. It's a great head-to-head game, a fantastic engine builder. You can go back and listen to the old episode that we talked about Res Arcana on if you want more information, but that is another game that I would probably argue plays best at 2. Not that it plays bad at the higher player counts, because we've enjoyed that too.
I can't say what it's best at, but it was solid at 2. It was really good. That's a beautiful game.
Now, Justin, I got to ask you, what are your opinions on this?
It's a tough one for me. Actually, I think I need to ask this question too. I need help in this department because it's me and my wife playing games. The problem in this household is I love games. I think my wife just plays them because I love games. And she'll play them having a good time, but she doesn't get engaged in it like me. So I try not to overanalyze every move I make so the other player doesn't get bored, regardless if I'm playing with my wife or not. But I am going to optimize my situation better than her because she's just there to participate. But on the other hand, she gets way more invested in the win condition than I do. So it's quite an unbalanced situation where I'm usually going to win because I'm optimizing my turns, at least somewhat. But if she's losing, she gets upset. Sometimes. Often enough that it's a problem. So for me, it's hard to pick these games because it's like if Phil and his wife Phillips Philbeert are at a similar level, well, great. You can pick just about any 2-player game. For us, it's like, no, it can't. If it's too much strategy, I'm going to dominate. If it's all luck, we're not really having fun, right? So that's been a tough one for me. So I had to look at my shelf and the games that we enjoy playing most. We're big fans of King and Queen Domino. Those are solid games, but I will admit there's been maybe a table flip on that one.
I think I was there for that.
But then it's happened more than once.
Yeah,
but that's a good game. It's a good family game all around. We just got out Century Golem. I just bought that because I know it's a fantastic game. We had been playing a lot of Splendor, but we've gotten to the point that I'm usually winning at Splendor and somebody else gets upset about it. So, 'cause there's more complexity in Century Golem. Well, or in Century. They're the same game, right? It's just the Golem is much prettier, more appealing to the masses type version. And we both had a great time at that. But it's been a long time since I played it, and it was her first play, so we'll see how long that lasts. Sagrada, I think that's one that's lasted a long time for us. She actually beats me at it occasionally, or fairly often, so maybe that one's a little more balanced on the luck versus strategy, or I'm just really bad at it and I overthink it.
That is a very beautiful game.
Yes.
I wish I could play it more, but it is not colorblind
You wish you
friendly
could play
whatsoever.
it pretty much at all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I would reach out here and I would say, hey, somebody could fix that by just not making them all transparent dice. Put some sparkle dice in there, or glitter dice, and some swirly dice, and then you got enough of a mix that most colorblind folks would be able to appreciate it as much as everybody else. But that's just my thoughts on it. Oh, I don't know. I had to think back to what's family games that we've been playing for decades, if not centuries. And when it comes to 2 players, most card games, not really. But backgammon. I mean, geez, I played a lot of backgammon in my family, and that's got just enough luck, I think, that you can't absolutely dominate someone every time at it. But it's got a good deal of strategy, I still feel, too. Plenty of room for anger, though, in that game.
Especially if money's on the line.
Exactly. So that's probably not the answer that Philbert was looking for. But, yeah.
One other game that you had mentioned in the show notes that you didn't bring up was Cartographers. I thought that was an interesting pick.
Well, I haven't tested it with my wife yet, but boy, that's a fun game. And it's solid at 2 players. Yeah, I think that's a good game. I think maybe I just mentioned it because, man, I really want to get that one out some more.
I can't wait for the Kickstarter to come in with all that extra content.
That's
going to be awesome.
I haven't even exploited your base content yet, so...
Yeah, I know. So it's really good.
So I don't know. Hope that's helpful. But if anybody comes up with something, I could use some tips. So
you co-op.
I know.
Co-op games. That way she doesn't get mad at you.
Yeah, she will still get mad at the game. That will happen.
She'll get mad at the game. She won't get mad at you.
Well, I brought the game. Don't forget.
That's true. That's true. So, Matt, I hope that helped. If you're looking for more feedback, certainly let us know, and we will try to delve a little bit further, whether that's kind of catering to more of your individual taste or a certain game type that you're looking for. But I hope that helped. And a question that has come from multiple others, really we've talked a lot about, our gaming habits here during the pandemic, which fortunately I think we've both had the 2 needles stuck in our arm. So we're looking forward to getting back around the table in person again. Mm-hmm. But everybody's kind of asking what the top 5 games that we're looking forward to bringing out to the table once we're able to gather in person once again, what those are. So I'm going to start. We're going to do 5 apiece, and then we're going to count down from kind of least anticipated to the most anticipated.
If you can weigh in that much, but we'll see.
My number 5 was Praga Kaput Rainy. I absolutely adore this game. There's so much going on to it that I want to share with other people.
Oh, you have tried this then?
I have tried it. I've tried it solo. But it's a fantastic.
I hear a lot about this.
It's a wonderful game. Yeah, you probably hear a lot about it on Instagram. You see a lot of pictures about it. It is a wonderful, wonderful game. Lots of ways to kind of go about winning. Lots of strategies involved. Solid game. I cannot wait to share Praga with other people.
So my bottom of the list, but probably the first one I would like to get out, is our good old-fashioned, which I think we've talked about before, Dungeon Quest, which we affectionately refer to as Dungeon Hole, because it just fits the feel so much better. I just really want... It's not one of the best games out there, but it's a good, fun ride. I did want to get it out with fresh meat, some new players, people who haven't experienced it before, to just go through that ride of just having a good damn time. Who cares who wins? Just the joy of gaming for the heck of it. Because that's what that brings. We have so much fun playing that game. And not because of the outcome of the game. Just because it's such a ride.
It's crazy to think about how that's rated. And then the experience that we have from it. Those two do not kind of go together.
We may not be typical either. I don't know why we're giving advice to people. But...
Well, everybody that's played it really, really enjoys it, despite it being so ridiculously difficult and kind of unfair.
It's super unfair. It's very fair about how unfair it is, though. It's unfairness for everyone.
My My number 4 is In the Hall of the Mountain King. And this is a game that I have not been able to get out to the table on Tabletop Simulator. I haven't been able to find a mod for it. There is a solo variant that is sold in stores, but it is very hard to get a copy of it. This game kind of has like this pyramid engine builder aspect going on to it, where you're kind of stacking up this resource generation. It looks incredibly awesome. I cannot wait to get it out. It is probably one of the games that I've seen the most about on Instagram and just not been able to play. So I'm really looking forward to getting this to the table with some other people.
All right. Next for me is Orleans, which is maybe kind of a surprise because my favorite bag builder is Quacks by far. But I don't know. Quacks seems to work okay online too. For some reason, I really want to get a good game of Orleans going with 2 to 4 people. It's a good game.
You know what else I want to get to the table with Orleans is see cooperative scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
That I've got with the expansion. I think that those could be very interesting.
I would like to try that. I'd be willing to go for that next time we get together. We've only got 20 things on the list so far in this episode alone that we've talked about for when we finally get together.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
My number 3 is Cubitos. This racing bag builder by AEG has kind of quickly starting to ascend the ranks of bag builders for me. I love how this plays. The options that are in the box are overwhelming, and it actually comes with a kind of Grand Prix mode where you get to experience all the content that the game has to offer within, I think it's 7 or 8 races. So I want to kind of take a day, like I said in the review, and just get everything to the table, kind of play a Grand Prix, have a little trophy for the winner, and just make a day of it.
Man, maybe we need brackets. That probably means we need more than like 4 friends. Yep, I could get behind that. For me, next is Sentinels, because somehow, Sentinels of the Multiverse, right? Somehow I still haven't played that, and you talk about it all the time.
It's so good. So good.
So, I don't know. I don't know anything about it other than it's a deck builder, right? Maybe it's not. I don't know. I just hear it's cool.
I
just want to be one of the cool kids. That's
all. It's very strange. It's hard to describe until you play it, but it is really amazing. Phil introduced me to it a number of years back, and we've been playing so many games of it ever since. Definitely one of my favorites as well. I'm looking forward to finally getting it to the table with you. My number 2 is a game that I talked about earlier. This
could be a flop
episode.
Based on our discussion.
That is Twilight Imperium. This is a game that I have wanted to get to the table for a long time. Getting people together has been kind of the issue, but I'm hoping that with getting over the pandemic, people wanting to go and socialize with others, that this would be a great day activity to go and just get all sorts of people over and finally get this behemoth to the table. I don't know which edition, probably 4th. I'll start off with, but I'm so looking forward to getting this game out finally.
We have so many plans for all day gaming sessions.
Yeah, I know.
All right. My second to last is I want to get the jumbo, all the Century games out at once. The 3 Century games together.
Yeah.
Big package. I want to see how that plays.
Yeah. Because we love every single one of those
Every one
games.
of those games is good. I just can't wait to see them together. I think maybe we mingled 2 of them once. I don't remember. Maybe
I don't think we
not.
did. I'm pretty sure that we haven't combined any of them. At least the 2 of us
I can't wait to
playing
see the monster
together haven't.
that game becomes when it's all together.
I know that there was a lot of praise when you combined Century and Eastern Wonders together. I'm really kind of curious what happens when you kind of form Voltron and get everything together all at once. And my number 1 is actually something that is probably unexpected. You would think that it would be something that I haven't necessarily played all that much before, but my number 1 is Overboss. I think that the surprise that this game was really lends me to want to get it out with a bunch of people. I want to spread the love about this game, how easy it plays. This is going to be another instance of Calico, again, same designer, where I'm going to recommend it to a lot of people for the theme and then for the gameplay and how simple it is to pick up, but satisfying and incredibly versatile.
That is kind of surprising even to me. Not because it wasn't a good game. Very good game. I didn't think it stood out so strongly, but I could see it being a real sleeper hit too. It's a good game. That's high praise being your number one. Mm-hmm. I have maybe sillier reasons for my number one. I want to play Dune.
Which one?
What do you mean? The Dune game you got.
So I have Dune Imperium, which I've talked about on this show before, which is the deck builder worker placement hybrid, and then the classic Dune.
You have that one? Like the old like
I have that.
I don't know, is it an 80s, 90s game?
Yeah, the reprint of it.
They made a reprint. Holy crap. Yep. Okay, can I make two for my number one? Both the Dunes.
I'll allow it.
Both the Dunes. I want to play Dune Imperium and classic Dune. It may not be that great of a game, but I've been wanting to play that game forever. And I just love Dune.
So Dune Imperium, I thought was good. And the more that I look back at it, I definitely do want to get that to the table. That would be like a 5A to me, I think.
Well, don't worry, I put it on my list already, so we got to
I can go back and amend that. That was something that I want to see with more players. But the original Dune is kind of more towards the Twilight Imperium kind of area control and domination, but I hear it gets really, really wacky.
That's good.
Because, you're playing all these different factions, and each faction has this asymmetrical power that is just bonkers asymmetric. It is, they have such a heavy advantage in one thing that they can do, but it's like over the top
You're
asymmetric.
getting me so excited because that's exactly what Dune's about.
Yes.
It's wacky and everybody's so different and I'm so excited.
Yeah, as long as it's not Brian Herbert, we're good.
Yes, as long as it's not Brian Herbert. I love all other aspects of Dune, be it the cheesy 80s movie or the, original books. They're both good for different reasons, but not Brian.
But not Brian Herbert.
But I feel like this has come up before on this show. I don't know. I blame Kevin J. Anderson as much as him.
Oh, that's true.
That
is true.
He's kind of the dark Sith Lord that's behind the power. Anyway, I'll probably get some hate mail for that one because I think he made the bulk of the Star Wars books. But anyway,
yeah, okay. Probably not all that much.
Yeah, you'll just edit that out.
Yeah, or will I?
Boy. Well, anyway.
So that was our top 5 games that we're looking forward to getting out once in-person gaming resumes. If any of you have any additional questions that you'd like to hear answered, or you just want to hear us butcher your Instagram handle on our show, make sure to email us at cardboardtime@gmail.com, and we will be more than happy to answer them, or just get a hold of us on our other social media outlets. So speaking of those, I think we're going to end the show and then get on with our social medias. Make sure to check out our Facebook page. Our Instagram and Twitter is located at cardboard_time.
I have my own Instagram at JPHomer98.
Make sure to go to our Board Game Geek podcast page, another place where you can go and ask all those questions to your heart's desire. If you have any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, much like Matt, you can email cardboardtime@gmail.com, and we will answer them right here on the show, as long as they're not too weird or obscene or anything like that.
We'll make something out of it.
Maybe we'll do something with it. But as always, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again in another 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time.